What it do? Dream Team. It's your boy Neal back with another reaction video, guys. Here we are with I held a fake class for Americans about Australian culture. Lewis Spears. I've never seen Lewis Spears, so I'm excited to jump into this. Before we do, make sure you subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, get a video a thumbs up so it gets suggested. You guys got a favorite video suggestion, you can subscribe to Patreon and drop it in the comment section. Oh, you got Mr. Spears.
Tony Abbott, Clementine Ford, Dave Hughes, who's a member of the Labor Party. From these photos, who do you think was our first transgender politician?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back at it again. As part of my TV pilot, Spears vs. America, streaming right now exclusively on my website, I hired a classroom to teach everyday Americans about Australian culture. And what's the most important thing in Australian culture? Lying to other people about Australian culture.
I feel like a lot of Australians do that. Know what I'm saying? Yeah. I would think it's like lying to be like, try to get someone else to think that you're being serious. I think it's lying to like go along if someone thinks something about Australian culture, but you're like a sarcasm form of lying. I feel like you're going along with the story, making them actually believe it, and y'all just find that funny. I think in the comment section, tell me if I'm right or if y'all just lying for the intent of lying. I don't think y'all are doing that. I think my reasoning's correct. Tell me if it's not.
Share, subscribe, learn, and enjoy.
I hired a classroom and invited the general public to a free lesson on Australian culture and history. G'day guys, how are we going? How are you? Good to see you. My name is Scott Morrison, ScoMo, as I'm known. I'm a tour guide in Australia, and we're just filming something to just see how much we can teach Americans about Australia, see how much you guys know about our country. It's called Australia with ScoMo, so welcome. If the name ScoMo sounds familiar, that's because he's not me. ScoMo, or Scott Morrison, is the current Prime Minister of Australia. You may have seen as I came in.
I felt like I seen him in the video about, like, when I watched the bushfire documentary. I feel like I seen Scott Morrison. I could be wrong, but I feel like
I was doing this. This is a traditional Australian greeting. So a lot of people will shake hands in America, maybe do a bit of a fist bump. In Australia, we call this the dingoes. So it's the two ears of the dingo. So we'll go up to everyone and do that as we see. So why don't we start off the meeting by turning to the person next to you and just give them the dingoes.
that must
That's
be like
great. Why don't you
FU or
guys tell me
something.
what you know about Australia?
Are there any small islands around that are actually connected to Australia?
Yeah, so Tasmania is a small island connected to Australia. Some people say that it is part of Australia, but most Australians disagree, mainly because of the big incest problem that is in Tasmania, which I'm sure you guys have heard of. I've just got a couple of facts here about Australia. So Australia is the world's largest exporter of coal. We're actually the world's second largest exporter of amateur pornography. Australian amateur pornography is very popular in Japan. For some reason, they just really like the accent. A few Australian inventions.
It's sad that if I didn't know this was like a joking where he's like lying to Americans about Australian culture, like a joking video, and I had actually sat in that class, like I would probably believe him. That's the sad part, is that I'd probably believe him if I was sitting in the class and I didn't know anything. Gosh.
That we came up with. So Australians actually invented the clothesline. We also invented the hearing aid, and we've also invented the goon bag. Does anyone here know what the goon bag is?
Vaguely.
Like
Vaguely?
a line bag.
Yeah,
so
much.
Not much. So the goon bag, it's a inflatable silver bag, and it's used as a resuscitation device. So what will happen is often in Australia, especially with younger people here, is we have quite a large drinking culture. So a lot of kids will just go overboard with their drinking. Someone might pass out, and what you'll generally do is you'll grab a goon bag, you'll attach the valve to the person who has passed out, open up the valve, and that will revive them at the party.
I think I know what you mean, yeah. Yeah.
Entertainment.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
is a huge industry. The most famous musical entertainer we have in Australia is a guy called Shannon Noll. He's a very prolific songwriter. Shannon Noll has written for Madonna. Shannon Noll's written for Eminem. Of course, Shannon Noll hasn't actually done any of these things. He's just the guy that came second place in Australian Idol back in 2003. Shannon Noll most recently wrote Thank You Next by Ariana Grande, which is a very popular song, probably his most popular work to date. Interesting fact about Thank You Next, when Shannon Noll originally wrote it, he actually called it Rido Next. It was actually originally about taking orders at a tuck shop, but Ariana Grande heard the song, loved the melody, but decided that it would have more mass appeal if it was about relationships and boyfriends. And Rido Next was changed to Thank You Next, and then it just completely exploded. Here we have Tony Abbott.
And he says it with such a straight face. Such a straight face when he's lying. Not even giggling at all.
Is his name?
Is it?
And here we have...
Is that not the Texas Tony Abbott? Is that not the Texas senator or whatever? I don't know.
Clementine Ford.
Governor Abbott.
And here we have Dave Hughes, who's a member of the Labor Party. One of these politicians was actually the first elected transgender politician in Australia, which was a big step forward for rights for transgender people and gay people in Australia. Just from these photos, who do you think was our first transgender politician?
I'm going to go with Dave Hughes.
Dave Hughes? And yourself?
I was going to go for Clementine Ford, maybe because she's a woman, sorry.
Well, that's interesting. Most people actually do believe that Dave Hughes is transgender. There was actually a controversy in Parliament, and it was actually a bit of a trick question. Tony Abbott actually transitioned in office and became Clementine Ford, and then went on to win the election and became our first Prime Minister. You may have seen Clementine Ford on TV.
Do you know why I was saying that? Because there was one woman, she became a man and she was the first man to be pregnant.
That's mainly why people thought Dave Hughes was trans, because he actually had quite a large gut, and they thought that he became pregnant while he was in office. But it was...
He said while in office, Tony Abbott transitioned into Clementine Ford. Bro, I'm done with Lewis.
It's actually Tony Abbott who transitioned from male to female and then went on to win the election.
I'm just pretty speechless. I mean, it's amazing how things just progress in time, and I really like that. I love that. Yeah.
It was a momentous occasion in Australian history to have not only our first trans woman as the leader of the country, but our first transitioning politician.
Yeah, we definitely got to do some more Spears versus America. It's like, once again, I don't blame the people for buying it. Because if I didn't know he was joking and I hadn't watched any Australian videos on YouTube, I would have sat in that room and believed everything he was telling me. That's all we got, though. You guys got a favorite video suggestion? You can subscribe to Patreon or drop it in the comment section. It's your boy D. Neal. Out.